Hey guys, it is currently the afternoon of the 2nd of January and I'm here to start a new reading vlog for 2020, which is kind of crazy. I mean, wow, we're already in 2020. But yeah, this video will go up at the end of January, so you've probably all got used to that idea, so I'm not gonna babble on about it. But the book I'm currently reading is Salt to the Sea by Rudis Petties. I'm currently about 150 pages in. This is the German translation. I got it from the library, so I'm very glad to read this. I'm reading this for the Magical Readathon, the winter edition. I did not quite finish off my quests yet, so I still have to read or finish 4 books for that challenge, and this one will be the first one of that. So if you want to hear all about the books I have read so far for the challenge, check out my December reading wrap-up where I talked all about that. But as I said, this is the book I'm currently reading and I am aiming on finishing that tonight. And the other book I'm currently reading is The Hunting Party, and this is a kind of crime novel about a group of college friends who go up to a cabin and one ends up dead, and it's all about who killed that person. I'm about halfway through that and I'm listening to that on Audible. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading, and I hope you enjoy seeing how my month unfolds. I am luckily still having 2 days off, so today and tomorrow, and then there's the weekend, and after that I will have to get back to work. So yeah, I'm really excited. I want to get a lot of reading done in this first 4 days I have off now, so we'll see how that goes and I'll check back in with you later. Hey there guys, it's the 3rd of January and it's time for a quick update. Yesterday I finished Salt to the Sea by Rudis Petties. I read the German copy of it. It's a very short book and I very much enjoyed it. It was a very entertaining read, even though it's a very grim and dark topic, because this book is all about a boat that was called Wilhelm Gustloff, and it sunk into the sea with about 10,000 people on it. During the end of World War II. And it's about 4 people who managed to get on that ship and yeah, what happened with them. So you're following 4 different characters, and many people always complain about one of them, who is a German. I think his name is Alfred. But yeah, I didn't mind it so much. I know many people said that they found him so disturbing. I mean, obviously it's disturbing, that's the whole point. But yeah, I just didn't think that he was like the worst Nazi character I've ever read about, so I don't really understand that. But you're also following a Polish girl, Emilia, another German boy who has a deep secret. He's called Florian. And then another girl, I don't know how to say the country she's from in English. Litauen is how we call it in German. And she is a nurse, and her name is Joanna. And so 3 of these characters meet quite early on in the book, and then the 4th one is on the boat, basically. So I found this, as I said, to be a very interesting read, and I really liked the topics as well, because it touched on a lot of things that I found very interesting in the past, but completely forgot about, like the Amber Room. I haven't thought about the Amber Room in so long, but I know that I had a childhood obsession with it, and I even watched a 1-hour documentary today to get back in the picture about the Amber Room. But also, yeah, the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff itself is a very tragic and still interesting historical event. And I also watched a couple of people on YouTube who were on that ship and described what happened to them today, and that was very fascinating as well. So I like that this reminded me of these topics. On the other hand, it is a young adult book, so you have to take some things with a grain of salt. I think it is quite well researched, but it doesn't go into very deep detail with things, especially Emilia's story is something that is quite devastating, and I think it is handled in a way that makes sense for a YA book, but that is just a bit surface level, I would say. So overall, I decided to give this 4 stars and move on to the next book. So currently I'm reading The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. I have already read this book a couple of years back, but I have never continued the series, even though I own the second book. And this matched the challenge to read a book from my top shelf. So I decided to pick this up. I'm on page 125 right now, and I don't think I will finish this today, but I will at least try. It is almost 500 pages. So the first book is a junker. The second book is much, much slimmer. So we'll see how far I can get today. So it's time for an update. It's the 4th of January. It is 3 in the afternoon. And I just finished The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. So that's 2 books down this year. I'm very happy. So this was the book I read for the challenge of a book from my top shelf, because I had read this before, and on my top shelf is only books that I haven't read. Or no, that I have read. The only one that I haven't read. So I decided to go with this one. And then the next challenge I have to do for the Magical Readathon is the book that I'm thinking of right now. And since I just finished The Fifth Wave, it makes sense to start the sequel, which I've not read before. So that is The Infinite Sea, and I will start that in a second after cleaning my apartment a little bit more. Again, I will probably not finish this today, but I hope that I can finish it maybe tomorrow, we'll see. And then I only have one challenge for the Magical Readathon left. I just started The Endless Sea, and the first part is the point of view of my favorite character, which is great because she comes into play quite late in the first book and she doesn't have her own point of view. And now we're getting it, and I hope he doesn't ruin it. I really like her, and I really like that kind of romancy bit that might happen there. So yeah, I really hope he doesn't ruin it. So it's the 5th of January, 3:30. I am a little bit more than halfway through The Endless Sea by Rick Yancey, and I will finish this book today. I will keep on reading in a second, but today I put all my Christmas decorations away, which took roughly about 2 hours, and so I wasn't reading up until now, or not really. So far I am enjoying this book. I feel like it definitely kept the momentum of the first one. I actually thought that many people didn't like this book, so I'm a bit surprised about that. But to be honest, I think with these kind of books, it always makes sense to read them one after the other. So yesterday I also ordered the third book, which is The Last Star, I believe. I ordered the German copy because I've read those in German and I don't like to switch languages in between. So yeah, so far I am quite happy with this series. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's quick, and yeah, we'll see. So I just finished The Endless Sea. I must say that I enjoyed this book even more than the first one, because in this one we follow my favorite character, especially in the last bit. And I really like what's happening to her. Obviously, it's not nice what's happening to her. I mean, this is a post-apocalyptic novel with aliens. But I do like her, and I'm interested to see how this moves forward in the future. So, yeah, I think I might give this 4 stars. I will sleep on it a little bit more, but I've really enjoyed the last bit right. So now the next book I want to pick up is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. And this is a novel that is inspired by, I think, the Trojan War, and it focuses on the female characters of that myth. So yeah, I had this on my TBR for a year now. I really want to get this read because I was so excited for it. And it is a little bit shorter than the book I read before, so it will finish the last challenge I still have from the Magical Readathon. So it's the 8th of January. I'm about to head out for work, but I wanted to give you a quick update. So the day before yesterday, on the 6th, I read the first 110 pages, the first part of The Silence of the Girls. And yesterday I managed to read about 40 more pages, so I'm now on page 150. I am enjoying this a whole lot. I really like the kind of take on antiquity. I like seeing the world from the eyes of a woman at that time. I don't know how accurate this is, but I know there's a podcast that Jean does. She has, what's it called? That's Ancient History, something like that. I don't remember the name of the podcast, but I think there's an interview with the author, so I might check that out after I'm done with the book. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The writing style is great. I do like the main character, Chryseis, I think is her name. And yeah, it's just a good book so far. So as I said, I'm about halfway through. I hope I can finish this maybe tomorrow. Today I have a hair appointment, so my fringe gets a little bit in check again. So yeah, I'm excited for the day. I'll talk to you soon. It's the 9th of January, and yesterday I finished part 2 of The Silence of the Girls. I don't know why I can't remember the title of this book, but I'm still very much enjoying it, and I can't wait to see how it ends. I have exactly 100 pages left, and I think it is realistic that I finish this tonight, and then I can tell you all about it. So it's the 10th of January. I finally got my haircut today, which I'm very happy about, and I just finished The Silence of the Girls, and right now I'm in between 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I think this is a great book. There were a couple of things that I don't know how I feel about yet, but I think I will write a review of this later, and then I'll be a little bit more sure about my thoughts of this. But this basically follows the Trojan War from a female perspective, and one thing that irked me a little bit is that still the male perspective took a huge part of the book. Especially the first part was the best part for me, but then the other two I felt like the male perspective was kind of invading it, and I don't know how I feel about that yet, because at the end it kind of made sense again. I'm just not sure. So then this morning the final book in the Fifth Wave series arrived, so this is the one I'll pick up next, so I can check that series off my list finally. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what happens to my favorite character, who was a big part of the second book, but also with the other ones. So yeah, I'm happy to finally read this.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.
So today's the 13th of January, and I just finished my audiobook, which was The Hunting Party by Lucy Fowley. And I'm not quite sure what I will do with this book, because I think I have to figure it out. But yeah, I just finished it a minute ago. And to be honest, I just don't know what I think about it, because I have read some mediocre reviews about this, and I didn't have the highest expectations, and I think it's definitely not the worst thriller I've ever read, but it deals with some mental health things pretty badly, as most thrillers do, and I just don't like this. I just don't think that mental health problems should be the answer of a crime story. Like, it has been done so many times, like, it's not interesting anymore. So yeah, I'll have to think about it, and I'll tell you more in the wrap-up part. During the weekend I started The Last Star, and I'm on page 83 with that one. I wanted to get into it a lot more, but for now I haven't had the time to do that. I'm also not quite sure if I'm gonna enjoy this one as much as the second one. I just have a feeling. This weekend I also started a reread of The Lord of the Rings with my partner. As you may know, I have been reading J.R.R. Tolkien's books to him, and so we started this, and we're currently on page 40 something. So we just really started the book. We just finished the foreword and stuff. So I'm really excited to reread this, because I haven't reread it too many times yet. So yeah. Now, since I finished my audiobook, I'm gonna get a new one now, and I wanted to get Lady Hotspur, because I was really excited to read some more Tessa Gretton, but it's not getting the greatest reviews. So I'm a little bit worried. You know, one tiny voice in my head says that I should wait until I can watch a couple of videos from people I trust about this book, and another voice is like, well, but maybe it's great and I'm missing out. So I really don't know what to do right now. Like, I had this plan in my head that I would get Lady Hotspur today and start it. And now I'm just not sure anymore. And I hate that because I really want to get a new audiobook before I do the dishes. So I'm a little bit more entertained. And also for tomorrow on the bus. Goodreads is not always helpful, to be honest.
Was ist los da draußen, ne?
Today is the 16th of January. I wanted to say December, that's wrong. And I am now pretty much halfway through The Last Star by Rick Yancey. I must say that I'm still a bit on the fence about this one because we just had a kind of revelation from one of the characters. It is pretty clear in this book that this is happening. Don't know how I feel about it. It is my favorite character that it's about, Ringer. And so, yeah, I'm not really impressed with that yet, but we'll see. I still have about 200 pages to go, so there's still room for improvement. Right now, I think this would be like a 3.5, just as the first one was. I feel like Cassie is definitely getting unhinged. She was the main character of the first book, and I do understand why she is the way she is, and I do like the contrast between Cassie and Ringer. My cat is going crazy right now. But yeah, sometimes she's just too much, and her chapters are a little bit annoying, to be honest. Yesterday we also made it to about page 50 in The Lord of the Rings, and I must say I haven't reread this series in a long time, and I didn't remember the beginning being so funny. So we've just reached the point where Bilbo is saying goodbye on his birthday party, and I love the lighting choice with this book. So yeah, I'm really excited that we're reading this, and I think my partners too. So yeah, this is good fun. And then lastly, I'm about 3 hours into Lady Hotspur, and so far I really enjoy it. I like the dynamic of the three main characters. And yeah, so far I can't really agree with all the criticism because I do like the characters and I want to see what happens to them. And also the part where I'm in right now, we're going back to Innis Lear, which was so exciting. I didn't know how much I missed this world until we were back there, so that's great as well. Hey guys, I haven't filmed an update in a while. Today is the 21st of January, and the reason is that I haven't really read anything. So the last weekend we spent in Hamburg, and we did a dinner in the dark where you basically can't see anything, and this is a thing that's done by people who can't see too well or are blind, and it was a very great experience, but also it was very challenging and my head was kind of overwhelmed a little bit, so it took me a while to get back into reading. So in The Last Star, I'm currently on page 229. In The Lord of the Rings, I'm currently on page 70, and that is because my boyfriend read some of it to me and not the other way around as we usually do it, because as I said, I just wasn't in the headspace to do it. And then I'm 4.5 hours into Lady Hotspur, my audiobook. So nothing really has happened and I can't really update you on anything. I just wanted to check in quickly basically and tell you what's going on. So it's the 22nd of January, and last night I managed to read another 100 pages in The Last Star. So I have about 50 pages left, which I hope that I can finish today, but we will see. So I'm now in the middle of the big finale, and it has picked up again. I feel like this book is still not as good as the second one. I don't really like how especially Cassie just went off a little bit, and her chapters are a struggle, to be honest. But yeah, I can't wait to see how this finishes, because I heard that it's not the perfect happy ending, and that in a YA series has me intrigued. So I hope the ending is good, and I will let you know maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after that. It is the 23rd of January, and no reading has happened yesterday. But I watched the movie adaptation of Wonder. I haven't had, I hadn't read the book before. I don't know how to talk today. Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I thought I could watch the movie, and it was quite cute, I must say. It didn't really hit me in the feelings at all, which I think is kind of sad, because I thought there was some potential for it. I think the parents do a great job. I think the child actors are okay, but they're not great. And I do see why people say that the ending is a little bit over the top and too good to be true. But I did like the kind of friendship dynamic between Augie and these two kids at school that he becomes friends with. I think that's kind of cute and kind of nice and stuff like that. So yeah, I wasn't blown away by the movie. Honestly, the only thing that made me cry was the pet death that happens in the movie. But yeah, it was interesting to see, and I hope that I can read something today, but my boyfriend got sick. So he's a little bit of a weenie right now, and I am not quite sure whether I will get sick too, which would be great because tomorrow is my birthday and I don't want to be sick for my birthday. So we'll see about that. I'll let you know. It's the 27th of January today, and yesterday I finally finished The Last Star by Rick Yancey. I don't really have too much to say about that, to be honest. I think it's a solid conclusion to the series. I feel like, as I said before, Cassie as a main character definitely went downhill a bit, but yeah, I felt like the conclusion wasn't too easy. It still also leaves some things in the open, so you don't know everything after that, but or you still have to think about it a little bit, which I think is always great, because it's not like it's a very fulfilling ending, but you still can think about it a little bit more, what the motives were and such. And yeah, as I said, solid conclusion, can't complain about that. And it took me forever to finish this, which I think wasn't the book's fault, but just mine. Because, yeah, I was traveling and then I was working a lot and then I got sick, which is just how life goes. But it's done now and I'm happy about that. I think I will give it about 3.5 stars in the end, but I'll tell you more about that in the wrap-up part. And then I started a new book last night, but I only got like 20 pages into it. This is Hamish Macbeth. Don't know what the English title is, to be honest. It's Death of a Hussy, and the author is MC Beaton, and this seems to be like a more fluffy crime novel that is set in Scotland, I believe. So we'll see about that. It's not my normal genre, but I got that for my birthday last year, and I usually have a policy that I want to read all the books I get gifted within a year, and since my birthday just passed, I am a little bit behind. I still have books to finish, so this is the first one. It's very short, so I hope I can tell you in a couple of days that I finished it. And lastly, I don't have an update on Lady Hotspur because I did not listen to anything. Or I think I'm about 4.5 hours into it, so there's still a ton to go, and I really have to get back into my audiobook game. But as I said, my mind just was wandering too much, and I just wasn't ready to listen to anything right now. So I hope that changes soon and I can tell you more. But yeah, also there's some new exciting stuff on Netflix, so I don't know how that will go. I mean, I have Sabrina, the third season on my watch list, and the second season of Sex Education, and we're still finishing up with the series of Unfortunate Events, which I had never watched the last season of. So yeah, busy times, but good ones as well. Hey guys, it is the 30th of January today, and I feel like the end of the month has kind of sneaked up on me a little bit. mainly because I was sick for almost a week. I still feel sick, to be honest. That's why I'm at home, even though, I'm working. I'm just working from home, so I can snuggle up in a blanket and stuff. But I have some things to update you on. I'm sorry, that was my phone. So the first thing is I finished Death of a Hussy by MC Beaton. I decided to give this 2.5 stars. This was a very weird read. Now, this book originally is from the 90s, so it's 30 years old now. And you definitely feel that. The German translation is new, so I don't know why they decided to translate such an old piece of fiction, but whatever. This is the 5th book in this series, but it doesn't really matter. I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. But this is about a small town in Scotland and a murder occurs. But this book is tiny and the murder occurs after 100 pages. So the beginning of this book is just all about the characters being in that small town, and it sounds quite cozy. But this book is full of especially fat shaming and also some slut shaming. So fun read. And apart from that, the murder mystery aspect of this was very weak as well. And I don't know. I gave this 2.5 stars. I checked it off my list. I will not keep this book. But, that's the thing with like gifted books. Sometimes they're just a bit not your taste. Done. And then yesterday I started this book. As always, I don't know the English title. This is The Girl with 7 Names, and I honestly cannot pronounce one of them, I guess. So I'm not even trying. So Miss Lee wrote a book about how she grew up in North Korea and how she escaped and why she had to leave her country. So far I'm still in the, childhood bit, and I have read a similar book last year and really loved it. So I got this from the library and I have to return it soon. So I decided to start this. I don't think I will finish it before the month is over because I only have 2 days left, to be honest. But yeah. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I think these kind of stories of people who grew up in a very different environment than me and tell their life stories, very, very interesting, especially if it's young women, because obviously I can relate to that a lot. And yeah, especially North Korea, very interesting, but I'm also really interested in Arab countries. So if you know similar books, definitely let me know, because whenever I read a book like this, I just feel like I have to do that so much more often because I enjoy it so much. So I'm currently on page 66, so there's a lot waiting for me, but I'm very excited to continue with this later today and I'll keep you updated. Then I wanted to let you know that I finally finished the Shadowhunter series on Netflix. It was about time. I had 3 episodes left for I don't know, half a year or something like that. I don't know why I just didn't finish it up, but I did now. And it's just such a cheesy series, but I did enjoy the beginning much more than the movie adaptation of City of Bones is the first one, I guess. Might not be correct. But yeah, I finally finished it. Interesting is that all the ships I liked didn't end up together, except Alec and Magnus. But yeah, that's just how life goes, I guess. As I said, super cheesy series. I'm just glad it's gone now, because I have that thing that I always have to finish things. And so I wanted to finish it so I can start the new Sabrina season 3. So only 1 episode into it, but I'm really enjoying it. And someone is blowing up my Facebook right now. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that yesterday we went to see Jojo Rabbit, and this movie is really interesting as well. Now, as a German, books about Germany in the Second World War that are done in America and stuff like that, always a little bit tricky. Like, for example, I hated The Book Thief, the movie and the book, because I feel like that's some kind of media that only non-Germans enjoy, because honestly, we learn about that stuff so much in school that most of the times things are just a bit boring to us because we heard it so many times. So yeah, Jojo Rabbit, totally different story. I very much enjoyed it. I think there is some moments in there that you definitely do not see coming. It has the weirdest sense of humor, but I did enjoy it. And I felt like the transition between the funny scenes and the sad scenes were done really well. There were some really beautiful shots in there as well. And overall, yeah, it's just the weirdest war movie I've ever seen, and I liked it. So I wanted to let you know. So it's time to finish up my reading video for January. Today is the 2nd of February, and I am happy to share with you all the books I've read in January quickly again. So I will give you just mini reviews of all of these books, hopefully with them in a very short amount of time. I also had a little bit of the magical readathon left to do, so if you want to know all about that, you have to go back to my December wrap up where I talked all about it. I did the magical readathon all through December, but I didn't quite finish it, so I dragged it into the first week of January as well. The first book I finished and pretty much read in one day was Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. This is a German copy I got from the library. And this is a book about the sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff, which was a military ship, or not really a military ship, it was a ship that was later used for military purposes by the Nazi Germans. And this was a ship that was supposed to bring refugees from the eastern areas that were lost to Russia, to bring those refugees to other place in Germany, but it sunk because it was hit by a torpedo. And yeah, this is about characters that are trying to make their way to this ship and what happens to them when they get there. I must say that this is a little bit forgettable from the characters. So we have 4 main characters. I think one is a nurse, one is a German guy who has knowledge of paintings and he knows how to restore paintings and stuff like that. There is this German guy who is really a Nazi and he's in the military somehow. And there is another woman, she's a Polish girl who has been maybe raped, maybe not. It's not clear during the book. So yeah, the characters were quite forgettable, but the main issue and the themes that were brought up in here I thought were very, very interesting. And so I liked the book for that. It's very short because you have the shortest chapters ever. They're usually just a couple of pages and there's not really a lot of words on one page, and then a lot of pages are just a couple of lines and then you change to the next chapter and then a new page and stuff like that. So it's very easy to get through, very quick read. And as I said, I like the themes. I like the history of the Wilhelm Gustloff. I like the themes that are brought up with the Amber Room, which plays a part in here as well. So I was watching some documentaries after finishing this book about the Amber Room and the Wilhelm Gustloff survivors and stuff like that. And for that, I did like this book. Initially, I gave it 4 stars. It's between a 3.5 and a 4 stars. As I said, the characters were quite forgettable because it's such a fast read and fast paced, and yeah, you don't really care for the characters too much. Like, I wanted to have a little bit more of a connection and feel a little bit more of a punch with some of the things that happened, but yeah, it was way too fast paced for that. And I read this book as a challenge, and I think the challenge was to read a friend's favorite book or a favorite booktuber's favorite book. And so I thought that this probably showed up in some favorites lists in the last couple of years of some of my favorite booktubers as well. The next book I finished was a reread for me, and that is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. I read this book when it originally came out in Germany, and I had never continued with the series, even though I owned the second book. So when I got the challenge to read a book from my top shelf, which is my favorite shelf that has only books that I've already read, I thought I could do with a reread of this. I don't really want to say that this is a favorite of mine. It just ended up on that shelf because it has the same height as some of my favorite books, like the Harry Potter books and the Giver series and stuff like that. So because I try to order my books with height, you know, that they look pretty. Whatever. So I reread The Fifth Wave. This is all about a girl called Cassie Sullivan, and she has survived the first 4 waves of an alien invasion. So basically there's no electricity anymore, no water supply, stuff like that. There has been a very terrible kind of flu, like a sickness that killed most of the population. And what is the other wave? I don't even remember. I think, oh yeah, there was kind of a flood. So a lot of areas that were close to the sea are now completely destroyed. And yeah, so these are like the first things that happened, and now the 4th wave is happening right now, and that is the silencers. So basically humans that are really aliens or somehow manipulated through the aliens to kill. And the 5th wave is what this series is all about. And so we follow mainly Cassie and also a couple of our other characters who get more important as the series goes on. And I really liked the world of this. I think it's very interesting. The question is always, why the aliens are doing that? Why is there such an elaborate plan if they just want to kill everybody? So I did really enjoy that. I think Casey is a little bit of an annoying character. In the first book it was fine, but like the later books, very, very difficult. But I did enjoy the reread of that as well. I decided to give this 3.5 stars on reread. It is also quite fast paced, but there's this middle bit that I think could have been shorter, where we start to follow Ben, and he is kind of in a military base, and he is trained to be a soldier, and I think that part is just way too long and it drags a bit. So yeah, I think that it could have been much shorter, but I do like what happens at the end. There's a bit of a twist there, and I feel like there has been some thought behind that, and I really like that. So the next book I read obviously was the English title, The Last Star by Rick Yancey. This is the 2nd book in the series. No, that's not right. What was the next challenge? Oh yeah, to read the book that you thought of in that moment. So I decided to use that because, obviously when I finish the first book, I immediately think of the 2nd book. So yeah, that's why I read this one next. This again follows Cassie, but it focuses much more on other characters in this world. So we met, I think, all of them before, but they are fleshed out a lot more now, especially Ringer, or her real name is Marika, I think, which is my favorite character. So this is also my favorite book in the series because the focus on Ringer is so big. So I gave this book 4 stars in the end. It's also the shortest, I think, in this series, so that also helped with the pacing and all of that. So yeah, this is, as I said, my favorite book in the series. It's still not perfect by any means, but it's a fun YA series. And as I said, Ringer as a character I found very interesting. She is the daughter of a famous artist who also had a problem with alcohol, and she's very good at chess, and she's quite manipulative, but she's also very clever, and she can see through things quite easily. And yeah, I liked her character a lot. And she's also Asian, I believe, or maybe half white, half Asian, something like that. So there's a bit of diversity in there, not too much, I think. Okay, I just realized I made a huge mistake, because obviously The Last Star is the last book in the series, as you could guess from the title. The book I was actually talking about is the 2nd book in the series. Oh my, now I got myself completely confused, and that's The Infinite Sea. So scratch all of what I've said before. I was talking about The Infinite Sea, 2nd book in the series. Oh, I'm so stupid. I should redo this all, but I don't even remember what I said. So yeah, sorry. And then the next challenge was to read a book that was shorter than that one, and that was very hard to find, but I did find one, and that is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. So yeah, this book I got because of the premise, obviously, because this follows the women during the Trojan War. And I love classics, I love ancient Rome, I love Latin as a language, so I'm very interested in stuff like that. So this kind of retelling just appealed to me, and I loved Circe as well as a retelling, so I thought this might be great as well. But I had my issues with this, so I did enjoy the main plot. So basically we follow Briseis. Oh, I always get it right. No, wrong. Yeah, Briseis. So we follow Briseis, who is captured by the Greeks after her city falls, and her husband and her brothers are all killed, and she is given to Achilles as a price of honor, basically. And she is to be his slave, but yeah, it's basically a sex slave, so she doesn't really have a very low position in that whole society that builds around these soldiers. She's still, you know, a woman that had power once and a very high position in her old society, and that kind of translates again. And the issues I had with this book, that Briseis really, she doesn't really see her privilege, to be honest, even though obviously she's a slave and that's horrible, like absolutely horrible. She's still in a very privileged position, and she harshly judges the women that are under her, like they're the women that have to do all the real labor, like cleaning the clothes and washing and cooking and bringing hot water, or bring water to heat up for bath and stuff like that. So she doesn't have to do any of that. And she's judging the women so harshly because those are obviously the women that were in low positions, that were older, that weren't pretty. So yeah, I had quite a hard time with this because, you know, it's called The Silence of the Girls, so you would think that it's more inclusive, like all the women are kind of portrayed and not just a very privileged woman. And also the way her life turns out in this book is quite good. Obviously, you know, having your whole family killed and being taken as a slave isn't that great, but she is quite lucky also, and I felt like this wasn't reflected by her character at all. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted this to be more than it was in the end. So in the end, I did really enjoy this, and I gave this 4 stars, but it wasn't the 5-star read that I anticipated this to be. And with that book, I had finally finished the magical readathon. I had saved Ginny from the basilisk, and the Chamber of Secrets was closed again. The next book I finished was my audiobook, which was The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. And this is a book about a group of friends who go up to a cabin in the woods to spend New Year's Eve together. But these friends, they have kind of separated ways a little bit. They're not as close as they were before, and there's also some secrets between them. And so on New Year's Day, one of them ends up dead. And we follow this book from different perspectives. So we have one perspective from kind of the present day, so the first days of January, and we have a couple of perspectives in the past, so leading up from the day they arrive at this cabin to New Year's Day. And I think this book is quite interesting. I really like the dynamic of the characters. Many people complained that none of them are really likable and that you don't understand why they were friends in the first place. But I feel like, especially with friends you've had for a very long time, sometimes that's just the case. You don't really remember how you even got friends. And so I can definitely see how that worked out a little bit. And this whole friend group basically clusters around this woman who is kind of a queen bee. And so she's holding them together somehow. And I did like that. Now, the character I identified the most with was Katie, who is the only single in the group, and she definitely has her secrets, but she's the more quiet one, the one that people don't always notice that she's there, and I liked her perspective the most. What I didn't like about this book is the ending, because even though it wasn't the worst ending she could have done, I don't think it's the best one either, because it falls back on stereotypes that I just don't want to see anymore, especially not in 2019. I think we're over that. We don't need endings like that anymore. There is other reasons to commit murder than this ending. So I would say go into this knowing that there are some stereotypes in this book that are not healthy at all. but it is a nice mystery still. And I liked that you could actually go along and you could figure things out yourself, and it wasn't an ending that was just falling from the sky, like, oh, that guy over there did it, like, where did he come from? It's not like that, so I appreciated that. But I hope that the next book this author writes has a better ending, in the sense that it does not, you know, pull out any stereotypes that you could have to find the murderer. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say for that. I gave this book, I think 3.5 stars in the end. So then life got busy and I didn't read for a while, and the next book I finished was then The Last Star, which is the last book in the series. Who would have guessed that? And I gave this 3.5 stars. Again, we're still following the same characters. There is some issues I had with this book, especially the storyline of Ringer gets a little bit weird during the middle part, but I did like how it is resolved at the end. I think this is a good finale to the series. I think it matches with the other books. I like that not all the questions are answered completely. You still have a couple of things that you can, think about, and, what the real motives of the aliens were is not 100% clear. Also, there is this end scene with Cassie, which I really liked. I think it's very well done because it gives you enough of an ending, but still there's this little bit of speculation, like, I don't want to say too much, but as I said, it's a good ending for the series. I'm glad that there's no further books because, it would have been too long, and I feel like this is okay. This is an okay YA series, so if you like alien stories, maybe check this one out. And then the last book I finished this month was also the first disappointing book of this year, and probably one that will pop up in my least favorite books. But yeah, unluckily, this is, what's it called in English? Death of a Hussy. This is the, I think, 5th book in the Hamish Macbeth series. This is about a Scottish police guy who lives in a small town that I probably can't pronounce correctly, so I'm not even trying. And it's a very, very small town. And so at the beginning of this book, the police decides that he's unnecessary because there isn't really crime happening there, so he's pulled to the next bigger city to work there. And so this town comes up with the idea to kind of fake crimes, so they think they have to bring him back to this town, and that is Hamish Macbeth. Now, this story mainly focuses on a woman called Maggie, and Maggie has been very pretty in her past, but now she's older and she became fat, and this is a very fat-phobic book, so it's mentioned a lot of times that she could still be beautiful if she wasn't fat. And also there's this one moment where she looks into a mirror and finally sees herself as the fat woman she has become, and she decides to change her ways and become beautiful again and stuff like that. So this was fairly, I don't know, disappointing is not even the word. Like, it was infuriating how it dealt with the weight aspect of that book, of the character, or whatever. And then also, this is a very sexist book, because obviously I don't think hussy is a very nice word. The German translation is not a nice word to use for a person, and she's actually called that because she had a ton of relationships with the men who were wealthy, and whenever their money ran out or she found someone who even had more money, she changed the man, basically. But now she's an old woman and she has a lot of money because she was actually quite clever and she invested her money quite well. And so her niece is living with her right now, and she also invites 4 men because she wants to find a husband. And all of these 4 men have been lovers of her before, but they're now out of money. So that's the main setup, and then one day she's dead. And what has happened? This was just such a disappointment. Like, 100 of these pages are not a crime novel at all because she isn't even dead yet. And so, yeah, we only have the last 100 pages that is really like a, thrilling crime story whatsoever. And then the main protagonist, he's really pretentious. He's like, oh, I'm gonna solve this, I'm so good at this, I don't trust the what's it called? Like the other police guys who are higher up on the ladder, who are, what's the word? His superiors, basically. He doesn't trust them, they're not good at their job, so he has to do everything himself, and he doesn't listen to them, so if they gave him a job, he just does something else, and he's so great for that because he figures out who the murderer is, blah blah blah. No, this was horrible. And what I found so confusing is that this book originally is from 1991, I think, but it was only translated into German in 2018. Like, who does that? That's weird. Like, we didn't need an old book like that. That is problematic as fuck. Like, no, thank you. So I gave this 2.5 stars because it was short and the writing style was okay. Now I quickly want to mention the 3 books I'm currently in the middle of that I have not finished yet. One of those is The Girl with 7 Names. This is about a girl who escaped from North Korea, and I am about 94 pages into that, so I have a lot to go, but I love stories like that. I think it's very interesting to hear about how other people especially grew up, but also their hardships and stuff like that. Very, very interesting read. I also started a reread of Lord of the Rings, so we started with the Fellowship of the Rings with my partner, but we haven't really gotten that far in. We're still in the first chapter, but I hope that we will continue with that very soon. And lastly, my audiobook is Lady Hotspur by Tessa Gretton. I have heard mixed things, and right now I'm falling out of the habit of listening to my audiobook, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so far I'm enjoying it, but it's not really that captivating that I can't, stop listening to it. So I will talk all about these books more in my next reading video, so stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this one. Leave a like or nice comment if you did, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!